All right. So we're on. Perfect. So we just give a few minutes for people to join before we begin with this very exciting webinar. And webinars are always exciting when I see Gerard. All right. So I believe that this will be a real treat, especially the subject we're discussing today. So let's just give a few minutes for the room to fill up, and then we'll begin. It's 1 minute past 3 now from my side. So in the meantime, as you're joining, please just leave a little comment in the chat to tell us who you are. I need to see the chat. And I would also inform Hiccups to join. So please just bear with me. Let's give a few minutes for everyone to hop into the room before we begin. So at exactly 5 minutes past 3, we hope to begin. So we have just about an hour for this webinar, and we have a lot to discuss and share with you. So let's just hope that everyone joins in on time. Can we see the chat? Okay, I can see already 2 messages in the chat. All right, Aurea Stella says hello from Liberia, and Patricia Silva has joined from Cape Verde. Welcome, Aurea and Patricia. Okay. Please put in a message in the chat for us to know that you're in the room, okay? Let's let the room fill up a bit before we begin. All right, thank you, Natalie, for putting that up. And in the meantime, you can see the various social media links if you want to get in contact with the ICA program. I think we should give a few more minutes. Okay, Simona has joined us from Naples, Italy. Welcome, Simona. we are forced to give a few more minutes as we are still very few. All right, so I think we would begin and hope that others join along the way. And since the session is being recorded, those who are not able to make it will be able to go back and watch the recording. So I will begin. I will introduce the session and kick off the webinar. All right. So hello everyone. It's 7 minutes past 3 UK time, and our webinar was supposed to begin at 3 p.m. So we just have to start. In the first place, I would like to introduce myself. I am Anthony Ndah. I'm currently acting coordinator of ICOP Africa and based in Plymouth, UK. I am an ecosystem scientist and previously zooplankton ecologist at Alfred Wegener Institute in Germany. So this webinar today is a very exciting one. And the webinar is on insights on innovation cost technologies for marine ecosystem studies. And this is a very, very hot topic as institutions around the world, and especially in the global south, are trying to catch up with the rest of the world when it comes to marine observations. And there's no better way to do that than low-cost instruments, because the cost of acquiring data using the current instrumentation is very, very high. And also the expertise required for that is also not very easy to come by. So low-cost instruments have become the go-to solution to observing our oceans. And we're lucky because we have a number of young people who have really delved into this and who are doing a lot of great work when it comes to the development of low-cost instruments. If I am breaking or you can't hear me, please, someone kindly tell me.
So, we can hear you.
Perfect. So today, this webinar, we have two speakers, Gérard from Benin and Francisco from Spain. And so first, I'll give some housekeeping rules. We have a chat box where you can just put any information you want to put in there. You want to say hi. And we have the Q&A box where you can ask your questions. So the format of today's presentation is we would start with the first presentation by Gérard. And after that, you have the opportunity to ask 1 to 2 questions. And the rest of the questions you can put in the Q&A. And then Francisco will take over. And after Francisco's presentation, we would get some questions from you as well. And we open the floor for a discussion where you would interact directly with the presenters. So in between the session, we'll have 2 polls. The first poll, which would begin now to get to know you and know who's in the house and where you're joining us from. And the second poll at the beginning of, before the beginning of the second presentation. So if the first poll can go up, that would be great. So we'll give 1 to 2 minutes to for this poll to be completed. Please kindly complete the poll. Sorry, we do not see the I do not see the poll, but I don't know if the rest of you do see it. Natalie, could you share it again, please?
Yes, I'm
Thank you.
trying. Let's see. Now it's live.
Yes. Okay, so please do fill in the poll. Take 1 minute to do that, and then we hand over the floor to Gérard for the first presentation. But in the meantime, I will take some time to introduce Gérard, a personal friend of mine. And so Gérard is, I'll say, an expert in low-cost instrument development, although he himself would not want to be referred as that. But he's done amazing work with regards to low-cost instrument development. And he recently, he was a scholar at Alfred Wegener Institute, where he joined the NF Pogo program. And presently, he's in Benin and currently working on several, on a project which he will be presenting to us today. And I wouldn't want to spoil the fun, so I would give the floor to, I'll give the floor to Gérard to introduce his work and tell us a bit more on the instrument which he has been developing over the years. Over to you, Gérard.
All right. Thank you, Anthony, for the presentation. And I would like to thank you all for joining us for this important webinar. And I'm happy to be here as we will be discussing the exciting field of low-cost technology for marine ecosystem study. And as Anthony already said, I'm an oceanographer, also passionate about technology, as it's the tool to driving really change in the way that we are observing our marine ecosystem. And today we will look at this technology, who they are, their benefit, and also some real world example of their use. So I don't know if you are seeing my screen.
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, thank you. So as you might know, studying marine ecosystem is really important because they play an essential role in maintaining the health of our planet. And this ecosystem, they are home to a vast diversity of any kind of life form. And many of them are also essential for global biodiversity. And they contribute significantly to human well-being through the provision of resources like food, medicine, and raw material. And when we talk about marine ecosystem, they are also playing an important role by regulating the climate through the absorption of carbon dioxide and producing energy. And additionally, they also support numerous industry, including fishing, tourism, and shipping, which are really essential to the global economy. But however, these ecosystems are under threat from climate change, pollution, and overfishing, if we might cite those kind of hot topic threats. And understanding and protecting them now is really more crucial than ever. Therefore, if we study marine ecosystem, we can develop strategies to mitigate these threats and ensure the sustainability of our ocean for future generations. But one of the biggest challenges in studying marine ecosystem or doing marine research is the higher cost of traditional technology. And sophisticated equipment, as well as vessels, are really expensive. And this a challenge limiting research capability, and especially in developing countries. And moreover, logistical challenge also, and the wideness of the ocean make also data collection very difficult. And this is where low-cost technology come into play, offering a promising solution to this barrier. And nowadays, low-cost sensors are really a promising tool which are revolutionizing the field of data collection and analyzing by providing affordable and accessible solutions for monitoring marine ecosystem. And whether you are a researcher, industry professional, or just an enthusiast, understanding the importance of low-cost sensor is essential for driving innovation as well as addressing a real environmental challenge. And when we talk about low-cost technology, they are referring to affordable, accessible tools and instruments designed for scientific research. And in the context of marine ecosystem, this includes simple sensor, do-it-yourself kits, open source software, and also community-driving innovation. For instance, including inexpensive temperature logger, citizen science platform, as well as an autonomous underwater vehicle built from a readily available material. But something really important we should address is the misconception surrounding the term low cost and affordability. When discussing low cost sensor, and we talk about low cost to refer to a product or service that are priced lower than average or traditional alternative in the market. However, what constitutes really a low cost can vary significantly depending on the factors such as the geographical location, industry standard, and also the specific product or service being considered. And low cost, the term low cost also implies a relative comparison to higher price alternative rather than an absolute measure of affordability. And when we talk about affordability, is the ability of an individual or entity to comfortably purchase or access a product or service without causing financial strain. And affordability is really a subjective, as it depends on factors such as income levels, the disposable of income, and the perceived value of the product or service. And what may be affordable for one person or an organization may be really expensive for another. And therefore, it is crucial to recognize that the term low cost can be relative and may not always equal to affordability, especially for individual or community with limited financial resources. Low-cost technology also, they are characterized by some advantage, which are their affordability, making them accessible to a wider range of researchers and institutions. And also by lowering the cost of entry, low-cost sensor make sensor technology more accessible to a wider range of users, including individual, small businesses, and community organizations. And this empower them to collect and also analyze their own data, fostering citizen science initiative, as well as community engagement in environmental monitoring and management activity. And they are also designed with ease of use in mind, allowing even those with limited technical expertise to deploy them effectively. Today, we will also see some application and case study which have been used to collect key environmental data, ocean variable data, and also spanning from capturing eDNA in water to collecting coastal ocean data and observing underwater physical ecology dynamic. Now let's explore how these local sensors are really revolutionizing our monitoring and understanding of marine environment. And the first example I will give is the Tor eDNA, which is a device recently designed by Xavier Porchon and his team to collect environmental DNA from cestone, which constitutes of particle organic in the aquatic environment. And it features a modified coat end with 20 micrometer nylon mesh insert that capture eDNA while the device is being towed from the boat. And what we can see is that this design eliminates the need of an active filtration stage, making the eDNA collection processing more efficient. And the top eDNA allow also for continuous and high-speed sampling, simplify the eDNA monitoring process, and improving as well the study of aquatic biodiversity and ecosystem health. You can further deep your knowledge about these tools using the link to the article dedicated to this technology, which has all been published. And another tool we will see, which are really easy to use, is the OpenCTD to collect an essential ocean variable like the temperature, the salinity, and the pressure depth. And this has been designed by Andrew Teller and his team. And it's enable users to collect salinity, temperature, and depth data in water as deep as 140 meters. And it offers a depth accuracy to within 1 centimeters and temperature accuracy to 0.1 degrees Celsius and a salinity error rate of 1%. And the OpenCTD is really an adaptable platform, allowing also the user to integrate additional sensors as needed, maybe on dissolved oxygen sensor, for instance. And this device is really important because it gives access to essential oceanographic data, allowing a wider range of researchers, educators, and citizen scientists to contribute to our understanding of marine environment. And is also really priceless compared to the high-cost instruments in the market and can be used in any kind of coastal area. And the good things about all these projects is that they are really an open source project. It means that they give freely access to the material, and even if all the code line, all the tool behind on the design of these tools to be used and also to be modified to really be suitable for your needs, your research needs. And the third one I will be presenting is a PlasPy TDM. And this device, I will say that is on this device I have been working, and is primarily designed by Otton Pusser from Alfred Wegener Institute. And the device he designed was the PlasPy marine camera, which is used to only take video or record image from the marine environment and can work until 200 meters depth. And what we did is we advanced these devices by add some key physical sensor on it so that it can collect the temperature, pressure, depth parameters in the marine environment. And we also play around with the devices by add a multispectral sensor on it so that if the device take any kind of picture in the marine environment, it can record the spectrum signature of that object so that we can use for further identification. But it's not replace the DNA study for identification of species. Here is what we would like to see how it works, how the result will be. And here is, if we look at the physical parameters, is how it's look like, and the devices when we were deploying during the field work in Cabo Verde. And another devices I have worked on during my postgraduate was the code low-cost drifter. And this was a project developed in the framework of the open mode from the POGO organization with the National Oceanography Geophysical Oceanography Center from Italy, who have worked on this project to develop a drifter which allowed to collect all the physical parameters in the marine environment, as well as the change in terms of the chlorophyll in the environment. So I would say here is some of the characteristics of the locus and how they have been used in different domains to collect data in our environment. But in terms of user perspective, I will give the floor to Francisco to present how, when they use it, what are the advantages those kind of tools procure to them, and also what are the inconvenient disadvantages they have encountered during the use of those kind of tools in the research endeavor. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Gérard, for the very exciting presentation, and especially on the PlasPy TDM, the instrument you've been working on for a few years already. And so if anyone has a question, so we'll open the floor for 2 questions. So anyone who has a question for Gérard. If not, you can just put your question in the Q&A. So before we go to Francisco, could you please set up the second poll? About 1 minute. Let's get the second poll. And also, if any questions are coming up for Gérard, please, this is your opportunity to ask. Although in the end, we would have a discussion session, but you can still go and ask your questions while they are still fresh. So.
The poll is launched.
Okay, thank you very much. So in the meantime, I will introduce Francisco. So Francisco is, I would say, has a bachelor's degree in oceanography, and a PhD from Polytechnic University of Cartagena in Spain. So he has over 20 years of experience in marine research. And he founded the NGO called Cartagena Oceanographic Research Institute, which focuses on marine research and conservation. And the central piece of this is that he focuses in the NGO on low-cost technologies, as they play a very important role as an outreach and exploration tool. So this is where Francisco and Gérard's interests align. And that brought us to where we are today, having this webinar. And so let's hear from Francisco and see exactly how everything Gérard has discussed in terms of the technology can be applied practically in society and in an organization. So the floor is yours, Francisco.
So thanks a lot, Anthony, and thanks a lot, Gérard and the ACOP for letting me to participate in this webinar. I'm really excited about that, and I have enjoyed a lot the presentation of Gérard about all the work that he has done. And let me share my screen. Let me know if you are able to see it.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So my presentation is more focused on the challenge that we must achieve in order to use this low-cost technology or do-it-yourself technology. That is really nice and advantages are clear. But when we want to get into this kind of project, we must face different challenges. So this is what I'm going to talk in this presentation. Okay, you are working on oceanography and you want to perform a research in oceanography and you want to use this low cost or sensors. So the first thing is that you should stop to ask. In Spain, we said to kill flies with a canyon. What sensor do you need? Do you really need, for example, a Cyber, the last model, in order to get the data that you need? You need this accuracy, this precision, the endurance of the equipment. You really need a camera that can arrive to 2,000 meter depth and record in 4K. Mostly of the time, you don't need this kind of things in your equipment. So you must to think, what data do you need in order to build the sensor that you need? I used to say that the worst data, the data you don't have. So any kind of data, and sometimes you don't need to have this fancy equipment. So it followed to the next thing is that you have to think again to move on. As Gérard said, to start to build the thing, don't wait. No, I'm going until I don't have the, I don't know, the last ADCP that is in the market, I'm not going to start my research. No, if you are wait, finally you are going to stand your research life without any results. So I encourage all the young oceanographer or engineers to start to move on and start to get into this, to build the devices, because a challenge sometimes I found is that we are waiting, and nothing happens. So let's move on. I would like to say that this challenge is based on my own experience. I am oceanographer, as Anthony said. I'm not engineering, but I've been working with them a lot of times. So this is based on my experience. We want to make this kind of projects. The next thing that's happened a lot is the character is golden from the Lord of the Ring, and it's not easy to find. Sometimes a nice project is just in the laptop of the research, and they have for their own. It's like, it's my treasure, it's my things, and I don't want to share it with nobody. Luckily, it is changing, and now in this community of the open science, open technologies, the people is more open to share it. But sometimes the problem is that, okay, we use GitHub, Bitbucket, but this technology, I realize that it's not for the people that are not used to work with this kind of repositories. can be a little mess to find something. So it could be really nice to have like a ring that control all, a place where we can find all the low-cost devices that the people are working on around the world, easily to find with all the characteristics and the way that we can use it. So another challenge for this kind of sensor is this, that some of them are not very easy to find in order to use them or to build them. Another one is the English is great. Thanks to this language, we're able to do this webinar to understand each one. But the truth is that everyone likes to have the material, the documentation in their own language. Perhaps I am able more or less to communicate in English, but if I want to build something, I prefer to have it in Spanish, in my case. And probably in every country, they prefer their own language to build something. And mostly if there's something that is quite technology. So it could be really nice that start to have more projects based in other languages. Another thing that happened to me sometimes is that I found a YouTube video, a project that they say, well, it's very easy. You can make your own ROB or your own whatever sensor. It's very easy. It's just in 5 minutes. And it's true, it's just in 5 minutes. But first you need to have an engineer in telecommunication and a PhD and to have a master and to have a place where to work and have a lot of equipment to build it. And after that, it's true that it's very easy. It's open and you can build it in 5 minutes. This is a thing that I have found sometimes. So it could be nice if the project in some way explain what level of knowledge do you need to have in order to accomplish the goal that you have, that in this case is to build a device. Another challenge that I have this kind of low-cost projects is that sometimes you have the list of materials or are materials on the shelf, but what is on the shelf is not the same for each institution, each person. So you have a nice list of materials. For example, I wanted to, for the device that I was helping to build, they use this epoxy, marine epoxy. It was from the USA and it was quite easy to find there, but in Europe, at least in Spain, was quite difficult to find and quite expensive. So I say, oh my God, it's okay, I want to build it, but I don't want to spend so many money just in the epoxy. So that could be a problem too for this kind of devices. So I really like when this is, for example, the Open Flexure that we see a little about that later. They sell kits that is already, you have all the things needed, the rubber, all the things that you need to have in order to build the device. Is something that I encourage to everybody to prepare this kind of kit. I think that it will help a lot to spread this kind of project. As for the Open Flexure project, for example, there's a good example of that. Another important thing for the low-cost sensor is who judges the quality of this sensor, because we want to be confident using it. When you check on the bibliography, there is a lot of bibliography about building the sensor, about some test of the sensor, but doing science with this sensor, there is not so much bibliography that someone has done a sonographic campaign, for example, based on this kind of sensor. And it's because we really don't have a strong confidence on the results. So I put 2 examples in here from the Europe, the Minky Synchro is from USA. That is 2 examples that place it, that give you this capability for free. You have a low-cost sensor, you can go there and calibrate this. I think that it will help a lot to go over this challenge of the lack of confidence of this kind of sensor. If we have good calibration of the sensor, then we can make science and more people will see that it is a really a tool for improve the oceanography in all the world. Another challenge is that sometimes when I work with engineers, I realize that they like a lot to build things, but to use it not so much, and to use it a lot not so much. So I think that it must be some kind of that they must work together. The engineering builds something, the scientific use it in the field, Again, it gets with some feedback to the engineer, and then it will improve it. And this loop, I think that's the loop that must to be done. And sometimes it doesn't happen, and it could be a problem for that kind of devices. Another thing is that sometimes, again, I said the paper support or our plan. I can have in a paper a really nice plan to use my device, my low-cost device. But one thing is to use in the office, and the other thing is to use in the sea. The sea is a very rough place. And what you plan to do in your office, you arrive to the sea, and it doesn't happen in the way that you thought. So the people who start to work with that kind of sensor or develop this kind of sensor, I think that much to know what is to work on the sea and the constrictions that have to work in a place so rough as the sea. I want to point out that sometimes a low-cost device doesn't mean could have a high cost to deploy it. We are talking about the sea, so we must take on mind that if I create a really cool camera that could arrive at to 1,000 meter depth, okay, but we need a ship in order to deploy it. So perhaps it's better to have a smaller cam to more shallow water, but to use it, not to wait until we have a nice ship that we can arrive to this place. As I said, it's better to use it and to have a sensor using it that in my mind. And finally, I found mainly in the area of the ROVs that a lot of institutions are building a new ROV, another ROV, mostly of them are the same. So I encourage the people to standing on the shoulder of giants. What I mean is that if there are people who has built an ROV, why not to improve this one? And the other one who can improve the thing that I have done. So every step is based on the last step that someone performed. So that's a problem that everyone wants to be from the scratch, but most of the time it doesn't make sense. So because other people has built it before. So that is I will share this my contact info, and I will share you another few slides explaining how some of the sensors we are using in the Cartagena Oceanography Research Institute with some examples. I will share again is my QR for my LinkedIn, so everybody is welcome to join me in LinkedIn. So let me to share just a second. I don't want to get too much time, so I move some slides to the most important examples. One of the devices that we have used the most is OpenFlexure. I'm not involved really in this project. I'm a user and a building of this. I have built and used these microscopes, but I encourage everybody to get into the web page because it's a really, really nice project with a lot of documentation, a community, a forum. This is a very good example of what a low-cost or do-yourself sensor should be. As I mentioned in the challenge, the first thing that we did is to try to build by our own and to put in Spanish. So we create a Bitbucket, but all in Spanish, explaining our experience building it. In the instruction is very well explained, but when you start to do it, you find some problems. And we wanted to document it. So we have a Bitbucket where we are explaining all the problems and the achievement that we got with this project. And what is amazing is the resolution that we get just with a camera Pcam and a Raspberry. This is again linking with the challenge. The first thing that we did was to get a calibrate micros. Sorry, I don't know the name. Something that was calibrated, so we can put on the microscope and know the size of the thing that we were looking for. In another way, we just get picture, but we don't know if something is big or how big. So this is the resolution of the microscope. So as you can see, it's 50 micrometers. And on the right side, I put to get you an idea about the microplankton, the size of the microplankton, what should be, and the microplastic. So mostly of them could be studied just with a microscope, that to build it could be about 80, 100 euros, more or less. So I think that I was really, to be honest, really surprised about the quality that we get. And I think that we can improve it later with another project that we get into in Cori. This is the microscope, one of them that we built, the piece that was 3D printed. And this is a video recorded with the microscope. If you remember the calibrate size of we are looking, it's really, really small. It's about 50 micrometers or higher. It's some kind of copepods. Anthony probably recognized some of them. I am not an expert on plankton, so I think, oh, that's really cool. It's moving. I like it, but I don't know what I'm looking for. If there's a phytoplankton and diatomeans. And this is a little scary the first time I saw that. I say, what was that? It's antestill, because this project, one of the use that we have done to the microscope is for microplastic and microfibers. So I think you can see clearly it with the microscope. So it's a really, really nice tool. As I said, it's another pictures. Our idea was to use it to detect microplastic on the water sample that we collect. We try to use different type of lights and fluorescence, but the project ends, and now we are looking for more funds in order to keep on working on that. One of a thing that I like the most of the low-cost project or do-yourself projects is that you can use it for outreach activities. For example, this microscope, we contact with a guy. I think that it's only one guy has go around all the globes walking, and this was one Spanish guy, and now he was involved in getting sample of water around all Spain. So I invite to come to Cartagena, and I encourage some students to build their own microscope. So during while he was in Cartagena, the student showed the microscope. He could get the sample that was collected with the ship, and it was a real outreach activity because the student built the microscope. The microscope was using for something useful, so it was a really nice experience. Another example is, sorry, just we collaborate with the VAT centers in Cartagena. So I encourage them to build an underwater camera that could stream the video in YouTube. So for 2 weeks, the students built the camera and was collecting video and streaming it live on YouTube, and was a really nice experience because mostly of these students were not in contact with the ocean. So with this activity, they was engaged in the ocean protection. I always talk to them about the ocean protection. So it was a nice excuse to engage them on ocean protection. Besides, all the data that was collecting is not just a nice video. We wanted to make it useful. So one other project, we use this data with some kind of AI in order to detect what was the species of the fish that was going in front of the camera. So, because to show that it's not just a low-cost device, it's not just a nice thing to do, it's something that can be really, really used on a study in an area. So finally, another thing that I would like to point out is not just low cost, it's sometimes reusing it. The big institutions sometimes can devices that they are not using. So I encourage everybody to ask to them, okay, do you have something that you are not using? Why you don't give us, and we can repair it, or probably we can use it in another ways that you are not thinking about that, or you are not using at all. And one of these examples is the Argo profilers. And this kind of profilers are getting us a lot of temperature salinity data. If you don't know these devices, I encourage you to explore about that. But the one thing that I discovered is the batteries run off, the profile go to the bottom of the sea, and it's not useful at all. So I get in contact with the Spanish Navy in order to get one of these profiler just before the battery run off and I start to go to the bottom. With the collaboration with the Navy, they recovered it. So it now is in our in CORI, in the Castejón National Research Institute. And now we have plans, because they have a really nice sensors, in order to open it and use this technology that in another way will be in the bottom of the sea, but now it will have a second life. So I encourage everybody to try to think about this way to use technology. For us, it's really, really low cost because it's for free. And we have really nice sensors. So the last one is a camera that have built secondary school students. Is like a challenge. So I asked them to build a device that can arrive to 100 meters, record 10 minutes of video, and come again to the surface. So each students build it in their own way, different approaches. And finally, with the Navy, that's my last slide. I don't know. We went to the sea and they deploy it on the sea. We don't get too much data, to be honest, because they have a lot of problem with the video. But the nice thing is they discovered how difficult it was to work on the sea. As I said in the last about the challenge, the devices work very well in the office, in the schools, but when I arrived to the sea, a lot of problems happened that they haven't think about that. So it was a really, really amazing to see how they were thinking the ways to go over this problem. I would like to show some nice video of the bottom, but as I say, it has a lot of problems. The students, some of them forgot to connect some cables, another forgot another things on land that they need to. So this is the only video that is not the high quality video, but at least they were able to build it. And now in CORI, we are planning to get these devices and keep on working on them, because there was a really amazing work done by each one of the students. So the last thing is I encourage everybody to join this Telegram group. 3 years ago, I created a Telegram. It's called Ocean Maker, but it's in Spanish, in order to gather all the people that have interest in this kind of devices. So I asked Anthony and Gérard if they think that could be useful, and they agree on that. So I would like to share that everybody encourage them to join this group. Now I think that it's Gérard and me only, but hopefully in the future will be a nice place where everybody that is working around the world in that kind of devices can share their project, their question, the different things about this. So thanks a lot. I'm really open to any kind of questions. So, and thanks a lot for letting me to explain all these things.
Thank you very much, Francisco. It was a very, very, very interesting presentation, and it was a roller coaster. At the point, I almost said, "Oh, Francisco, it's taking too long," but I just couldn't because it was so exciting.
I'm sorry. I tried to go very fast. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. Yes, I mean, it's a great learning experience. That's why we're here, to learn, and it gives us a lot of ideas on what is possible. What people like you and what you're doing, especially with the students. So it's some very encouraging things we see, that we can use low-cost technology, and not only use them for oceanographic data collection, but also becomes an ocean literacy kind of program where students can get into it, they make those mistakes, and they learn a lot from them. So for us in Africa, this is something which we would really, really think hard about, how to get close to you in order to get activities in Africa. And so I believe, Gérard, you also have some ideas. So very much for the excellent presentation. And I would say, since we do not have much time left, we will open the floor for questions and answers. And there's one question in the chat, but I think, Gérard, it was asked by Alindo about calibration of the various low-cost instruments. And I think you did touch on that a little bit, Francisco. Gérard has also answered that question. So if anybody has a question or a suggestion, anything, please raise your hand and ask along. Going first. While waiting for questions, I think I will go first. I have a question first for Gérard. For both of you, by the way, because I noticed that, Francisco, you did touch on some low-cost instrument with a camera system similar to what Gérard has developed. So I want to find out, is there a possibility for working together on maybe innovating or expanding on this work which both of you are doing?
Thank you for your question. There is one expert in user design experience who once said, nobody cares about the type of technology you are using, but the most important thing is the experience you create with it. And as you also notice, with the PlusPy camera, we use the same component to design the PlusPy camera. But compared to what have been used with the open floss microscope, they use the same component as well, but turn it in the microscope. So basically, it means that you can have the material and you decide which, according to your objective, which kind of technology you want to implement. And there is no fixed framework with the type of equipment you have. We can have both the same equipment, but we design or innovate in such a way that it will work in different ways. So, and collaborate is always what we want, especially in terms of low-cost sensors, because if you do not collaborate, I'm sure we are not going to success in this field, because design a one technology implies a lot of hand expertise, like oceanographer, engineer, programmer, and so on. So it's really a teamwork task, and we really encourage that. I don't know if I answered your question. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Gérard. Yeah.
I completely agree with Gerard. In fact, I contacted the first time by LinkedIn because I saw the amazing work with the camera that he was working. I say, wow, that's really cool. I want to learn to do so. So I think that there is a lot of a joint point to work with Gerard, because I think that, as he said, that's the way. If we don't collaborate by our own, we are done. So completely agree with him.
All right. I think there's a second question in the Alindo Vega says, any tips on how to communicate remotely with these devices?
Yeah, we could say that in the underwater, there is no way to have a communication like in real time, unless you tethered your equipment from the surface, and you can see all the things you are recording from the depth to the screen. But another way is unless you design a devices which can operate it from the surface, like a drifter, for instance, and if you design those kind of surface devices, it might imply that you add some communication system through satellite. So this satellite communication can help you to get your data anytime from the land. Another way to build or to solve this communication problem is to set your device in such a way that it use the network to make a basic setting. For instance, at which time are you going to record your data, at which depth, and which parameters you need. And after you make that basic setting, the device will disconnect himself from the network and start to operate himself. And then you can only get your data when you record, you pick up the devices from the marine environment and connect the devices to your laptop or maybe to the network again. So far it's this kind of communication which exists. I hope I answered the question, Professor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gérard. And because you talked about, I think in the instrument which you developed, I know there's an antenna where you can transmit data directly in real time. Is that what you try to explain, or?
Yes, but the antenna is just for the communication, satellite communication, or sometimes there are some devices who use the VHF communication, but those kind of communication systems are really expensive because you need to subscribe to a provider to give you this kind of communication system. And you need to pay monthly or annually, depend on the framework of those kind of companies.
So that now comes into challenge the very meaning of low cost, if you have to now incorporate that aspect.
That's why for some people, when they design the device, they also said, okay, instead of to let the device operate himself, we will just titrate the devices so that when we were at the sea, we can only use that. You got it, like you use a rope, like an umbilical rope for the communication system to get your data in real time at the screen when you are at the sea. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So while we continue with the interactive session, Natalie, maybe you could share the results of the polls.
Yes.
I'll take the next question from Urias. Please, if you're asking questions, you could also put in the name of the person you're addressing the question to. And if it's for both, I think you can also mention. So Uriah says, what are the constraints of these devices? I think constraints is a very it's a very big word. So that would tell a lot of explanation, but maybe you can summarize that in a few words for both Gérard and Francisco. What are the constraints of using these devices?
I will go ahead and maybe if Francisco has something to add, he will pop on. The constraint of these devices, firstly, is the accuracy of the data. And this accuracy, in order to encompass that or bypass this accuracy problem, suggests that when you use these kind of devices, always mention the accuracy of your sensor you have used. For instance, if I use a sensor which has an accuracy of 0.1 degrees Celsius, it might be good for you to say, okay, the device I use to collect my data have this accuracy, to mention that, so that the person who are using your data know that, okay, here is how accurate is the data I'm using. So that's the first one. And about the accuracy, and also about the accuracy is like in oceanographic research, we have looking since the beginning of the history of oceanography to reach the highest standard. I don't know even if the highest standard really exists. Like for me, it's like an infinite number. So if together with the community using low cost or with the researcher, we can say, okay, here for type of system people are designed low costly, here is the standard, we can look at it or try to reach this standard. I don't know if you get it. And it might be used as framework to design any further devices which might meet this kind of standard. And another constraint of using these devices is the calibration. Sometimes you can have your sensor who will start to drift, and to encompass that is to regularly make a calibration compared to with the highest cost price equipment. That's the first solution. Or you can also use standard calibration through your deployment, feedback deployment to always train your data. And another way to also overpass this calibration problem is when you deploy your devices and you collect the data, try to find from the data any common bias you have. Because if you have some bias, it might be that if this bias is always repetitive, it might be that you can use that bias to see how your device is really calibrated. And another constraint is the price of those kind of devices. As I explained earlier, is the device can be low cost or priceless, less priceless, and then not be affordable, depend on the community who are going to use that. And this affordability of the devices is always in function of your, if I might use like your pocket, how many amounts you have and you are willing to expend. And seeing to really afford also the devices, or in talking about affordability, is also the value you are giving to that devices, which might really help you to see, okay, this device is really worth for me to afford that. So in summary, I think in terms of constraint to use these devices, those are the three main key to really looking at before to use it or before to buy them. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Gérard. And Francisco, do you want to add?
Yeah, I completely agree with Gerard. And in fact, I think that the way that the science works should change a little, because the reviewer, for example, for an article, finally the articles is the way that show that you are doing science, to evaluate your science. Must to, when they saw in an article they are using low-cost devices, that they think that they can be a good devices. Usually they say low cost, say no, it's not a really nice device with a currency and that kind of thing. So I don't take in consideration these results. And I think that we must start to change that with these kind of devices, we can do science, and it's something that they would like that step by step could change. So that's one. I just wanted to, because Gérard has made a great outline of the constraint.
All right, thank you very much. So the next question I have here is from still from Arlindo Vega, who says that if someone wants to start doing research in this area, where would you advise them to start? I think, Francisco, you go first on this one.
I think that my advice could be is to start. And our research can be so simple as with your mobile that usually they have a GPS to walk every day with the shoreline and know how it's changing the shoreline of your area. For example, that's really simple thing. It could be my citizen science, and or for build a Seki disk. It's like a disk, for the people who don't know, is a disk, is white, and you with a rope, you let it go down to the water column, and when this appears, you take note of when it has disappeared, and after a long data set, you will see that sometimes the turbidity change in your area, and when you have a nice data set, you can start to do and to get some information of your area, and perhaps if there is an institution near you, go there and ask, how can I help? What are you doing? And get advice from the people that is near you. And so simple, for example, to go to talk with the fishermen. They are the people who knows most of the seas, and sometimes just talking with them and taking notes is really useful data. So research is not always joined to nice big devices. It can be doing in other ways.
All right, thank you, Francisco. Gérard, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, is to define a really good objective which are realizable. Like sometimes you have some objective to do or to make some work, but in reality you couldn't. It is unrealistic. So that is the first thing. And the second one is to start little, not start with biggest. we always should start a little by little. And afterwards, you can also look at collaboration, because this fee is really a collaborative task and collaborative work, as in apply a lot of skills to build a one device. So, and afterward, everything is easier, and just go and innovate. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Gérard. So, would you also say having a mentor, identifying a mentor, for instance, a young person who is watching this webinar today, or who would watch the recording later, will say, oh yeah, Gérard, I contact Gérard, and then Gérard or Francisco becomes my mentor and guide me through the various steps, because the most difficult thing is usually to start. Yeah, so if you need someone to hold your hand and lead you, to the right place. So is that something which you think, if somebody came to you and says, I need help to start, would you be able to provide that help, and how?
I would say yes, because we never finish to learn, and that person also can teach me a lot of things. And as I'm not knowing every around low-cost technology, I'm still learning. So why not? And it's only through collaboration we can really have a good vision about what is going on in our area, especially in developing country. So I'm opening.
Okay. And Francisco, do you have any opportunities in your
That
NGO where?
please came and ask for help, because we will be really, really happy to provide it and this kind of devices, not just for developing countries. I think that for a small institution as ourselves or another ones, we can't rely on the ocean exploring just on the very big institution. I think that around the world, all the small institution, it doesn't care the country, can put a lot of that on the table, very important. So I will be really, really happy to, and as I said, Gérard, we will learn from each other. I'm sure about that.
That's good to know. Yeah, I'll just quickly take the next question. And please, if you want to open your mic and ask directly, I think it should also be nice to hear your voice. Okay, so we have a few minutes left to go. And the next question here is from Amadou Bité, who's the coordinator of ICOP Senegal. And he says, thank you for your nice presentations. And I saw that the camera was able to detect some organisms, plankton. I want to know if it can, at the same time, take their morphometric measurements, like length, width, or area. So I think, Francisco, you did mention something related to the microscope.
Yes, absolutely. We didn't do that, but at the moment that you have some metrics, some calibrate metrics, at that moment you can, after that, get the size, the width, the length of the area of some part of your sample. So yes, you can. We haven't done it, but I know that this microscope have this capability, because one of the nice things of this kind of devices is that it's open source. So a lot of things have been developed around this microscope. So I'm pretty sure that you are going to be able to do so.
That's good. Thank you, Francisco. And Alindo Vega says, do you think the resolution of cameras and other instruments could jeopardize data collection? I think that's the very first question. About the resolution of the cameras. But I think Gérard already did answer that question. And Uriah says, are there other environmental constraints that could affect data acquisition? I think this is a very important question, like you mentioned with the school students, Francesco, and you also mentioned the fact that some instruments are designed in the office or in the lab, and without really taking into consideration the reality of the marine environment. So what do you have to say to this environmental constraints?
I think that we can talk a lot about that, but some simple things, for example, is that the ship is moving. So in your office, it's all calm. and your device is working well, but you get seasickness because the ship is moving. That's something that sounds a little just stupid, let me say it in that way, but a lot of problems came from that you are not used to work on the sea, so you get and of course if you get seasickness, you will not collect any data. That's or the salt of the sea, that a device that is prepared for land, when you took it to the sea, and 1 day later it's all full of rust. I think is all broken due to the salty of the water and the pressure of the column. It's not the same to put a 10-meter depth at 1,000-meter depth. So I think that environmental constraint is really important.
Thank you very much. And talking about seasickness, going sampling in the North Sea was quite something. So at times when you can barely look at what you're doing because you're almost vomiting. So so you should take that into consideration. Yeah, we don't have any more questions in Q&A.
Mhm.
And so I believe that we could
We
say that we
can-
probably come to an end, or
And we can share also the results from the polls.
yes, yes, that's good.
So
So
from
you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank
Go
you.
ahead, please.
So thank you all the audience to participate in this webinar. It was very exciting. Thank you, Gerard and Francisco, for your inputs and all the information that you share with us and your knowledge. And regarding the polls, the first question for from the first poll was, where are you from? We have 29% from Africa, 29% from Asia, 29% from Europe. This is the highest audience from these continents. Are you an early career professional, ocean professional? Well, 86% replied yes. So thank you so much that this information is getting to you, because we are aiming to reach all ECOPs and also non-ECOPs. How familiar are you with low-cost technologies for marine ecosystem studies? Somewhat familiar, 71% answered that. And 14% said very familiar. Then the next question was, what do you hope to learn from this webinar? 86% replied overview low-cost marine technologies, and 57% said how to design and build a low-cost marine instrument. So I think with this webinar, you had a really good and insightful information to start with your projects as well. And the fifth question from the first poll was, have you ever used a low-cost marine instrument? 57% said no. Well, this is an opportunity now that you have two mentors over here to start your project as well. Then for the second poll, we have, the first question for the second poll was, which of the following low-cost marine technologies are you most interested in learning about? 35% said remote sensing tools, and 29% said autonomous underwater vehicles. Nice. Then how would you rate the level of importance of low-cost marine instruments in developing countries in a scale of 0 to 10, not so important to very important? 41% said 10. They consider that it's super important. And we have 18% in almost very important. And the third question we have, what is the maximum amount you would consider paying for a low-cost marine research instrument? 35% said between $500 and $1,000 US dollars. I presume this US dollars. And for the fourth questions, what do you think is the biggest challenge in implementing low-cost marine technologies? 53% said funding and resources. Well, funding is always a constraint. We already know that. But we also have that 29% of the audience replied technical expertise and training. And the fifth and last question of the second poll is, do you believe incorporating low-cost marine technologies into educational programs can enhance marine science literacy? 41% said yes, like they replied with a 10, so for everyone is very important. And yeah, pretty much that's the polls that we have. Those are the results. Thank you again for the audience to reply our polls and to engage in this webinar.
All right, thank you very much. And I think with that, I bring it end to the webinar. And I want to thank Francisco and Gérard again for the excellent job. And I believe this is the first one, and we should try to make this a series so we get to know us, because it's a rapidly evolving field, so we get to know as new innovations come up, and we get to share with the rest of the world, those who are interested in low-cost technologies. And also, as we talked about, we need to work together. So we would stay in touch and see how to bring these opportunities, especially to the underprivileged around the world, the students who do not have access to this kind of opportunities in Africa, Latin America, and the global South in general. So thank you, Francisco. Thank you, Gérard. Thank you very much, Natalie, and the
Thanks a
rest of the
lot.
team who helped to make this a reality, and all the planning that went in from the very beginning up to now. So it's been a success, and I would like to thank you and say goodbye until we meet again next time. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.